Greetings all together. It's a pleasure for me to talk about the question, how can we as souls contribute most helpfully in this time? I beg your pardon for my English because I'm German. I'm an MD since 1978 and specialize in psychotherapy and family medicine. Since 2007, I facilitate LBL sessions and served for the MNI as mentor, as assistant, teacher, as columnist for our journal, SOTA. Yes, I start with a general introduction. The focus of this talk is how to be most powerful in an evolutionary sense in face of the current chaos, breakdown, and suffering in the world, how to fulfill our chosen life purpose, and being of best service to the whole. It's about balancing our soul self with the personal self, being spiritual and human, being mind and body, heart and brain, one foot in higher realms and one foot on our earth. I want to address some essential points which help us find practical answers to this question. Oh, sorry, I forgot to greet you, especially my dear colleagues, Rita, Sanella, and dear Diana. It's a pleasure to cooperate with you tonight. We know from history that religious commands and moralistic prescriptions don't work at all in this sense. I believe more in the principles of Hermes Trismegistus, which are, among others, as below, so above, as within, so without. And a Rumi saying comes into my mind, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. From my experience, I'm convinced of the deep truth in this, and that we help others most by helping and healing ourselves in the first place. This doesn't exclude any social engagement and helpful networking, of course. Fundamental changes of paradigms and societal structures are urgently needed. At the same time, self-healing has ripple effects on others, on the collective, on the earth and the cosmos even. This happens through example, through radiation as the soul light, which we are, through energy fields and most probably through the quantum holofield field. Rumi says again, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in one drop. The whole universe is contained within a single human being, you. Consistent transformation, self-transformation means to become aware of our inner movements, to take over responsibility for our repetitive dysfunctional patterns and heal our inner wounds from the underlying traumata in the past. By that, we balance and release our karma, we dissolve our current armor and polish our divine spark. This also requires checking regularly two main obstacles in the way, our shadow and spiritual bypassing, which usually creep in through the back door along the spiritual path. Spiritual bypassing are strategies to skip necessary steps of emotional, mental, social, and spiritual growth. It sets in when a larger gap develops between ideals and self-claims on one side, and their realization in life on the other side. This leads then to a kind of dissimulation, hypocrisy, self-judgment, and also guilt feelings, necessarily. By impatience and ambition, pressing hard to be good, to be helpful, to achieve something, to do the right thing, to crave approval, spiritual bypassing comes in. It's a very common phenomenon in religion and in spiritual paths. Denying our limitations, shortcomings, and bypassing in turn result in our shadow. Therefore, we need self-honesty, self-acceptance, and also a well-working practice to balance the steady shift between contrasting inner states and also between outside polarities. Life is characterized as a soul energy condensed within a physical membrane. And this is causing a constant pulsation and undulation. I will describe some of these contrasting states now and offer a helpful symbol to balance them. For instance, look at the quick shiftings between joy and sadness in children. The smaller, the younger they are, the quicker the shifts. Or we shift between, when we grow older as adults, the shifts are not as quickly, unfortunately, but we have them. We have the two sides of trust and fear, another example. Or affection for somebody and aversion against my neighbor. In the morning, I feel affection because he smiles at me. In the evening, when I see him beating his dog, I feel aversion. Another polarity is being an individual with firm boundaries and bonding and connectedness and oneness. Being in my heart and not being in my heart, more in the ego. Being a spiritual essence and being a normal human personality. Imagine to stand on the fulcrum of a seesaw and balancing these two sides. We are the seesaw, the whole seesaw. We are the one person on one end, and we are also the person on the other end. The two poles of these contrasting states. And we are also the balancer. Now we can balance so that the less heavy part becomes more dominant and has more fun. I hope you understand my symbol. Yeah? Okay, it's helpful for me at least. So then, why do we ask this question at all? How can we as souls contribute most helpfully in this time? Don't we know it already deep inside? And if yes, why do we ask ourselves? Why do we wonder about it? The shadow here might be low self-esteem or lack of self-trust, lack of trust into our intuition, into our inner wisdom and guidance. But it's legitimate, of course, to ask. There's only way to find, and there's one way, main way, it's self-awareness, self-compassion, and self-acceptance. Because anything dark, any shadow, needs to be understood and to be loved. As long as we are not able to love, to understand, to love our shadows, the best we can do is just humbly to accept it, that we cannot. When we heal our heart, when we heal ourselves, when we care for constant self-transformation, not as an effort, just by let it happen with love, then compassion and engagement for others unfold naturally. It has not to be a task, not a commandment, because in our true essence, we are caring, we are compassionate and loving for others. So how can we let this question become more natural? The first key here is trust that we are guided by a higher loving intelligence through the whole evolutionary process, through all incarnations, individually and as a species. The second key is to believe in ourselves, to believe in our true being, which is beautiful, good, and precious. According to my experience, each human being is a unique blend out of 100 to the power of 100 divine gifts, which are special light qualities and which our soul wants to unfold in the incarnation as human virtues. This unique blend is our divine spark. Believe it. What helps to rediscover it is to remember and write a list of all positive notions, remarks, thanks, and feedbacks you ever received from others. Also to write down what you like in yourself. A helpful symbol is here. Imagine Michelangelo's stone sculptures and trust that your soul is the artist who is cutting in raw marble your individual sculpture as a unique, magnificent masterpiece. It's about trust that we are co-creators of ourselves. And based on all this, what I said, contributing most helpfully in this time as souls means believing in ourselves and living what we truly are. Being aware of our immortal soul and of our divine gifts, our virtues, learned talents, earthly potentials, and above all, to know our chosen life purpose. According to our state of self-awareness and spiritual development, we may know our chosen life purpose or not yet. the easiest way to recall it, to recall what we truly are, our divine gifts and life purpose and so on, is by having an LBS session, of course. Here we perceive ourselves as a being of light, and we get answers to the questions: how far we already fulfill our purpose and how we best fulfill it. There are other ways to find it out. You can use the following signposts for orientation. Whatever gives you deeper joy, conveys satisfaction, or even fulfillment, may lead you to your chosen life purpose. Joy is the best signpost at all. You can also find it out through moments when you are totally immersed in something and your perception of the time is gone, in timelessness. I give you two more symbols to strengthen your trust into your unique being and purpose. Imagine you are a raw diamond, and your soul is polishing you according to your own plan through the incarnations and through the life experiences, including suffering, including blows and tragedies. Your soul is polishing your diamond until it's shining brightly. Rita, you had this beautiful title in one of your books. And the second symbol, imagine you are one puzzle piece, and only with your uniqueness, the puzzle becomes whole. And in your puzzle piece, the whole picture is painted. It's again a holistic, a holographic thing. You are the one missing piece to the whole puzzle. We have three main powers for contributing to healing and transformation of the collective. Many people feel powerless and helpless, but we have three main inherited, intrinsic powers, which is the power of light and consciousness in our crown chakra, the power of compassion and healing in our heart chakra, and the power of trust, faith, and belief in our first two chakras. Recently, I read a book by Chris Beige about his LSD experiments. It's a wonderful book. I can highly recommend it. It's not, for me, it was not about LSD at all, because I'm not interested in psychedelic drugs so much, but he explored the cosmos, the universe, the evolution of humankind. And in his, he saw the demise, breakdown of the current civilization. And in his 70th session, he saw the future of humankind. And he called it the diamond soul. I call it the divine human. And I believe that we are guided by our own divine plan. So we are gods in the making. Yeah, that was what I wanted to say. Maybe 1 or 2 sentences more. Our embodied soul gifts, which are a unique blend, as I said, blend of various light qualities, are powerful energies which affect the whole world. If they are unfolded like a bud, it blooms, which means if they are expressed as human virtues. Many people are not aware of their unique gifts and magnificence, but belittle themselves unconsciously in thoughts, in feelings, and talking, hiding their light under a bushel. Some fear to not fulfill their life purpose at all, or maybe not good enough. Others are maybe restricted in unfolding of their divine gifts because there is still some armor by mental, emotional, or spiritual blockings. There's a Japanese Zen koan. I will read that. Be what you can become, be. Figure out when you are most lively and love your life most. If you trust this love, you will be guided towards your destination. This is your star. Follow it, knock on heaven's door, and then listen to the sound. Oh, and by the way, in my LBL practice, the chosen life purpose is nothing complicated or dramatic. For most journeyers, it is also less about doing, but more about being oneself, being one's true self. I frequently witness such simple answers to the question, what is my chosen life purpose? How can I contribute most helpfully? As healing, just healing, or learning self-care, practicing helpfulness, conveying joy, reconnecting with nature, living authenticity, bringing something new into the world, spreading your humor, unfolding your mediality and sensitivity. I have hundreds and hundreds from my over 2,000 LBL sessions of such documented life purpose or answers about life purpose. At a higher level, although we have a sheer endless the diversity in these answers from guides or other higher sources of wisdom, there are also we can also see some general tendencies. As I said, it's more about being than doing. At a higher level, we all choose one overriding life purpose, which is learning to give and to receive love. Okay, so would you like to contribute? Or would you like to ask something?
Yes,
colleagues.
Yes, thank you so much for your wonderful talk, Doro. I'm thinking now that you trained with Michael Newton back in the days, and I would like to ask you how, I know you had a lot of clients, as you said, this about life purpose and our topic today. Can you say something about how it has evolved since the days of Michael Newton and his books? I'm curious.
Do you ask if the experience evolved, the LBL experience evolved?
Based on your experience, I mean, from training with Michael and how
yes.
Yes.
I observed major changes since those times, and especially then the descriptions in Michael Newton's books. The perception of my clients of the in-between life state became formless. There are no more landscapes, temples, gardens, but spheres of light and energy. And the same is, or it's similar with their perception of their guides and their soul group. Only seldom, or only a few of my clients perceive their guides and soulmates as in a human shape form, but as light beings, transparent light beings. And they perceive themselves as a light being, moving, floating freely beyond time and space. So I understand it. I thought a lot about it, why these changes came about. And if it has to do with me, or if it's the changed time we live in, the changed, the raised consciousness of people, I believe that they project less from their human earthly experience into this LBL session, but really go into higher dimensions.
Yes, yes.
I'm interested in the concept of how we can contribute, especially in this time when people are isolated and feeling that what I do to heal myself and take care of me doesn't necessarily translate to helping the world. And what have you encountered about people in isolation, how COVID has moved people into this reflective place, and yet they're opening more of themselves? I mean, it's really pushing us, I'm finding with my clients, into being more open, more expansive, more aware of their own energy. What have you come across in your work about helping in this time of isolation?
I give them hope and a vision that things will improve, that the crisis will vanish, and I will show them their possibilities, the possibilities they have to connect through a phone, the internet, emails, to go out as far as they can. I mean, our state of being, even if I'm alone, I don't feel lonely. I feel connected. And I tell some people which are desperate, I told them, connect with your loved ones in your thoughts, in your heart, in your memories. It was also a chance, this crisis was also a chance to go more inside and feel and sense this kind of connectedness, this deeper or higher connectedness. Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Diana?
I agree with that.
You
I think
agree.
it is what it's doing, it's helping people understand more about what connection is and how, and energetic connections and who we are energetically. And as people begin to explore their own sense of being and their own sense of connectedness, they're beginning to break through old barriers about having to be physically next to someone in order to be connected to them. And I think this pandemic has helped people explore that barrier that they've had in the past and see that it's artificial. It's just like, as you're saying, people, how they're experiencing things is shifting. So when they're in an LBL session, they're not needing the support of having a guide look like a human in order to feel them as a guide. And I think what's shifting is people's experience and exposure to what connection is in a more real way, that then they can bring back into their life now and how they connect to others. And so I think there's an expansion of our ability to connect as a result of this work. The people are seeing, I'm not really as isolated. I really have the opportunity to engage in the collective, even though I'm sitting physically in my living room with nobody around. And it's shifting that. And so the person who comes and saying, I'm feeling really isolated, I'm feeling like I'm not doing anything for the world, can get a greater understanding of what their work is doing to promote their own healing, as well as the healing of the greater world and others.
Yeah, I wrote letters again, and I received written letters from a friend, and that was so precious. Diana, at the same time, I agree fully with what you said. However, at the same time, we are humans, and we have human physiological needs. And this crisis with the political restrictions did a lot of damage to, especially to kids and young people, children.
Yes, and
because
that's
it was their physiological needs of having body contact with other kids, friends, teachers were not fulfilled.
That's why schools, even with this latest outbreak, are now aware of the need to keep kids in school because of the social emotional learning aspects of education, not just the academic portion, but it's really about learning and developing those skills at that particular developmental level that was totally lost with taking education online.
Doro, can I ask a question? I'm sure that many of our listeners and viewers would like to know about shadows. I know it's a word that we hear very often, and you talked before in your presentation about accepting shadows in order to achieve this spiritual bypassing and grow and connect. And sometimes when we are somewhere in a lockdown, or we are forced to be in a space for a certain period of time, we get to know ourselves a little bit better, and maybe those shadows start surfacing and we don't know what to do, or So can you tell us a little bit more about this? How to accept, how to identify them exactly? And I'm sure that our viewers would like to hear a little bit more about this.
I choose an example of a shadow. Maybe I take the shadow in our solar plexus, which is craving. It's craving for nutrition at first, craving for love, craving for approval, for as many likes on Facebook as possible, craving for as many friends as possible, as many certificates, and so the light quality here is, the divine gift here is peace. That we care for a balance of giving love and receiving love, giving energy and receiving energy, being loyal to ourselves and being self-sufficient. So we don't need to crave for love, because love is there. We are love. And the craving, it's greed, you know, it's the greed in the world, the greed for power, the greed for money, the greed for acceptance, for approval. It's a huge shadow as long as it's not conscious, it's not aware. There are all kinds of addictions sit here. The shadows of addiction. We even have internet addiction, isn't it? We have drugs and alcohol and so on. Sex addiction. It's all about craving and greed, not getting enough, not having peace here inside. And we need to become aware, to feel it. Why are I so dependent from the number of likes in the Facebook group, or whatever? Why are so dependent from having all the time contact with others? I don't need that actually for being loved, feeling my self-worth, and so on, having enough. There's only one way, which is through self-awareness, sensing it, feeling it, admitting it honestly, and then accepting that, okay, it's like it is. I'm addicted, I have greed, I crave for this and that. Not the worst thing. What we can do is to beat us, to put us down for such a shadow. But what's necessary is understanding. Where does it come from? And then accept it. The easiest way to accept it is, in my experience, going into contact with my inner child. Because it's a wound coming from childhood. Maybe I really got not enough love from my mom. Maybe it comes from past lives. Anyway, inner child contact is very, very efficient. I hold my inner child. I embrace it. I tell her, the little girl, I love you. as you are, with all your faults, your shortcomings. It's okay if you ate too much sweeties or whatever. I love you nevertheless. I love you when you are, if you are nasty. I love you when you break something unconditionally. So that's the easiest way. I don't know any easier way to accept the shadow and to dissolve it slowly than like that.
I'd say, in addition, one of the things that I do is help people find what it feels like to be in that place of love within themselves so they can feel it and know it, because you can't achieve what you don't feel and know. So when you're feeling in that place of satisfying a greed, as opposed to being in a place of peace, being able to recognize the qualitative difference of being truly at peace or simply having fed a need. And when people recognize that there is a truer sense of peace inside of themselves and what it feels like, then they can actually attain that because they know what it feels like. And many of the people I work with have never really focused on that and been aware and observed what inner peace feels like. So they can't get there because they haven't ever observed that. And it's simply getting them to a place of quiet peace within themselves so that they are aware of it. And I think a lot of what the work that we do is to bring people into observing themselves and being aware of who they are and what they feel on a being level. Because most of the time we focus on what we do and what we don't do and criticize what we do and don't do. It's not really about who we are on that deep soul level, where that's where we actually find true peace. And doing that work, and I totally agree with the inner child work. I seem to be doing that with more and more clients, on a regular basis, because their inner child has so much wounding, and that their habits then go back to that wounding and protecting that wounding and dealing with it, or having a child who acts out who they're then struggling with on a shadow level.
Yeah, the inner child connection is, in my LBL sessions, one central station. When we go backwards, when I regress them into pleasant childhood memories, I also let them go into a loving contact with their wounded child. And another way for healing and accepting the shadows is the merging with the primary soul guide. Because in this merging, they feel, as you say, Diana, they feel the unconditional acceptance and love and peace.
I think what you're saying as well is this is not work that one does in one session, and that from reading the books, I find people come to me and think that they can do all of this work in a single session. And I want to do this Saturday and be done with it. And it's like, this is a journey. You've been working on this many lifetimes, and be at peace with yourself on this journey. And I find that's one of the difficult things of people who've actually read the books, is they think they're going to have the one perfect, complete session that is going to heal them. And I find that that's one of the challenges of working with people, is helping them understand that it's a journey that they're on, as opposed to going to a session, fixing it. I mean, this is again, that addictive part of fixing and moving past. It's trying to find the fix. Here we're locating the path where we are the path of the true self. And that's a different sense of the work than usually clients come in with.
Yeah, I agree, Diana. It's an ongoing process. It never ends, as long as we live. I did 30 years of therapy for myself and countless sessions of different methods.
And as well, it's a beautiful journey, the self-discovery, the acceptance, the nourishing and loving that inner child. And once the shadows are detected and accepted, there's this beautiful feeling of fulfillment, of peace. It feels this, right? This point you mentioned, this solar plexus, it extends. And everyone can notice, everyone around us feels this too. Something shifted. It's like the burden has been lifted from others too. It's very, very, very important. Thank you.
Yeah, we radiate it then. We radiate peace and satisfaction and inner calm. We don't need to say anything, actually. Or maybe through our voice as well and through the eyes, we radiate it with our energies. I remember now one aspect related with the craving and the shadow here in the solar plexus. I have quite a number of patients. I call them patients now, I say clients. I had a number of clients with problem of, how do you call it in English? Adipositas?
Overweight.
Obesity.
Obesity. Thank you. Obesity. So they came to the LBN session with the question, how can I eat less? A question to their soul guide. What can I do to eat normally? It's the wrong question, of course, because as long as they fight against themselves and against their body, there is no way to heal. We cannot do the third step before the first and the second. So in the pre-talk, I already clarify this topic with them. I ask, how do you feel with your body, in your body? And all obese clients reject their body. So first step is as a question to their soul guide or their council of elders. How can I accept this body? It's not the question, how can I get an ideal body? But how can I accept my body, living in my body? So, and again, an inner child contact, I let them imagine being an obese child. And I say, would you tell this child, I don't love you as long as you are so fat? And they can say, they can feel, never. I would love my child, even if it's fat, even he or she is fat. So it's an easy way to let them feel self-acceptance.
In my experience, it's usually a paradox, because I used to be an osteopath before and work a lot with clients, this kind of problems too. And they were, those who had overweight seemed to be malnourished on many, many levels. And LBL is a wonderful way also to ask, what do I need? What nourishment for my soul do I need? I think it was you, Dora, who told me once that you can never long for something you don't ever had. Somehow there is a deep soul memory that what is fulfilling and what is what I as a soul maybe in many lifetimes I was longing for. I had a client the other day, a beautiful 50-year-old man who had been very, very ambitious all his life, and he came to me with a yearning to meet his soul purpose, although he had many, many professions and children and wife and all what you can, but a yearning. But he opened his heart during the session, which was beautiful to experience. It was an online session, but when his heart opened to, it's actually open to his female side. He encountered a beautiful woman who he longed for, and it was not a romantic love. It was a longing for his, as the Jungians call the anima, or what it was, if it was his soul or if it was his guide, we don't know. But in the end of the session, he became one with this woman, and he was super happy and realized that his soul purpose is about freedom and to be free and
did he recognize this as his life purpose?
And it was many more details, but that was like what I call a hole-in-one session. That he had read the Newton books and he was kind of getting what he wanted. It's not anything was planned or anything, but he was in a state, this guy, that he could somehow reach out to himself, and so brave, I think. And it was a very long session, but all the twists and turns, and finally coming into his heart and totally feeling his soul purpose. It was, and like you said before, and many of you, not many, but you, my colleague, said also that that it's not saving the world always, but it is being oneself, really. I mean, he felt
that's my conviction, my experience, that in the end we can heal the world by healing ourselves, because we are the world. The whole universe is in ourselves. Yeah. Maybe I read for you a few more answers from spirit guides to the question, how can I contribute most helpfully? What is my chosen life purpose? Shall I?
Yes.
Yeah. So, developing patience, unfolding strength, staying in motion, caring well for yourself, teaching from pure joy, like from a sparkling source, trusting your intuition, having contact with autistic children and horses, grounding on your fortitude and having trust into the flow of your life, taking more time for yourself, painting, writing, yoga and physical movement, exercise, unfolding self-esteem, freedom, and going on journeys, doing pleasant things, helping others through words, going into the future with confidence, knowing that all is well, feeling your joy and convey it to others, practicing self-love, being childlike and having fun, while overcoming compulsive working, powerlessness and resignation, unfolding light-heartedness, being a good dad, healing the loss of loved ones and mastering life-threatening situations. Resting more, inspiration and communication, and so on and so on and so on. As I said, I have hundreds of these answers collected. Yeah. Anything else to add?
As we are approaching soon the end of this video, I would like to really thank you, Dorothea. There's so much more to say about all what, what there is. We can do so much with ourselves, for others, and for us. But I think the most important thing is to start and not to be afraid.
Well said, Sanela. Thank you very much.
I think of the journey of self-exploration as one that some people are afraid to do because they're afraid of what they're going to find or not find. And that fear can keep people stuck and keep people numb. And I think this environment that we've been in has pushed people to examine whether being numb and zoned out works as a coping mechanism. It worked in the past, it's not working very well now. And what can I do to be more comfortable? And many clients come in with that illusion that numbing themselves to what is happening is a good coping strategy, as opposed to simply being present with what is and who you are, where one can be comfortable with oneself, even if you're not comfortable with the things around you and what you're doing, and learning about that intuitive side and the being present aspect of life that we have the opportunity to learn. And I see that in my clients, this shifting away from numbness as a strategy into being present as a strategy. And that's part of the learning that I see my clients going through now. It seems to be an evolution of the time that people are learning about that part of themselves, exploring the parts that they were afraid to. And at least the people who are reaching out are seeing that it helps to do it with someone else and find someone that you trust to work with, so that you have a trusted guide to help you in this lifetime, help provide some boundaries as you begin to explore something that you're afraid of and have fears about. And I think this work really prepares us in a lot of ways to help others open up and do their own work in a trusting environment, and to recognize how their energy affects others around them, and how shifting their own energy can raise the vibration of their lives and those who they connect with on whatever level they connect. So it's a fascinating journey once you open that door.
Oh, yes.
And it's a road to self-empowerment. It's a common popular word, but I think to having one's own compass, inner compass in these days, is very helpful.
The one thing, Doro, that I tell my clients about is about Ho'oponopono, and how self-love and self-forgiveness can be a foundation for reconciling shadow with the light self, and how it can be an opening to support your inner child and be able to align with all that you are. And that self-forgiveness and being able to be forgiving of self opens up a lot of opportunity.
So true, Diana. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Doro. I mean, this has been a wonderful talk, and I really
Thank you
appreciate
too.
being part
It was
of
a
it.
pleasure for me, an honor, a privilege.
Thank you, Doro.
Joy.
True privilege to share with you and to listen to you, Dora. So thank you.
See you soon.
See you. Bye-bye.